Behind your eyeballs? In your brain? You might say it is true that I only see a body in the mirror, but I am somewhere inside this body. You might specifically say, I am inside the brain. I am in my brain. Very well, but have you ever seen a brain up close? Go and find yourself a brain and look at it carefully. You do not necessarily need a human brain. That of a cow or sheep will do for this purpose. Look at it carefully and pay attention to its details. Examine the brain carefully and tell me if you can really call that thing myself or even a bearer of a self. Biology tells us that the brain is a network of interconnected neurons. But what is this network of interconnected neurons made of? Excluding water, this network of interconnected neurons is mostly made of fat cells. Then, and also to put it more crudely, let's think of it as just a piece of fat. If you still think that you are the brain or inside it, try to locate yourself there. Where in this thing are you? In which part of it is your me located? Where do you feel yourself in it? Where in this piece of fat? If you find this task difficult, at least try to discover in which parts you are not. Where is yourself, your identity, or your self-awareness in this pile? Where is it not? You might say that the sense of self-awareness is the result of neural communications in a neural network. However, this explanation is too vague to clarify anything. It evades the real issue, let alone the fact that this explanation has not been scientifically proven yet and lacks a strong and solid basis. Furthermore, even if we accept this explanation, nothing has been resolved, because it is not yet clear where the self or consciousness resides, how it should be defined, and how it emerges and develops. Furthermore, we still face the undeniable fact that the brain before us on the table or the one in the skull is merely a bit of fat and not a person. Whatever else we see in the brain is the creature of the brain and not the work of the visual system. Another common mistake is that we habitually and by default locate our self somewhere in the head behind the eyes. We feel the self is there. We feel our location to be somewhere behind the eyes. If you close your eyes now and try to locate yourself in your body, you will probably find it in your head, behind the eyeballs. But is this mental sense correct, logical, trustworthy, and compatible with physical facts? Or is it merely an illusion rooted in habit? Have you ever asked yourself what is behind the eyes inside the brain and what it consists of? Have you ever seen that part of your body up close? If you do not have access to a human brain or head, you can examine the brain or head of a sheep, or cow, or pig. Take a look at the space behind the eyeballs. That is exactly where we imagine the self to be. Look at that space up close. Is there anything besides fat and flesh there? You will not say, I am there, if you closely examine what lies there. The reason behind the assumption that we feel the self behind the eyes might be the importance of the eyes in connecting the internal world with the external world. But then, how do the blind, who lack a working visual system, feel the self? Through their ears? Actually, it doesn't matter. The truth is that we are not behind our eyes or our ears. In fact, we are in no limb or organ of the body. It is only through habit and repetition that we feel we are in the body and that we are the body. We have gotten used to the idea of seeing the self as the body, and in its organs. It is time to ask ourselves a meticulous yet scary question. Where exactly in the body am I? Which part does the feeling of being inside the body indicate? Where in this body do you find yourself? If you pursue these questions seriously, you will find that you do not have a clear answer to them. If we examine each organ carefully, we find it impossible to locate the self in any of them. Where do I really reside in this body? The hands, feet, neck, shoulders, back, skull, or stomach? What do these organs consist of? Can you trace the self in them? Is there anything besides flesh, bones, and fat? Our body and its parts are not that much different from the flesh, bones, and fat you find in any butcher shop. What is the difference between that meat and the flesh of your body? Why do you see that meat as meat, but see this flesh as the I? Why? The body is just a body. The body is not the I. The I is not the body. The self or I, or to be more precise, the sense of self-consciousness or self-awareness, does not and cannot exist in any body part or organ. The body receives information from its surroundings, processes it, and then delivers it to the I, the receiver. Then everything is lost in a vague darkness. Can we locate the ultimate receiver who watches the processed data? Can we even describe it? It seems unnatural to our mind, but we do not have a choice other than to accept the fact that we are not in the body. We are not and cannot be anywhere in the body. Where then is my I? These eyes? These eyeballs? To continue with our questions, let us ask another one that problematizes our common beliefs. Stand before someone and look at him or her. You feel that what is standing in front of you is a person, for instance, a friend. If someone asks you what you are looking at, you will say, "I am looking at my friend." The question is, which part are you referring to when you say, "I am looking at my friend," or "This is my friend"? In which part of his body do you find your friend? Which part exactly contains your friend? Which part of that body does your mind perceive as your friend? His hands, his feet, his stomach, his back, his neck, his ears, his fingers, his teeth, his knees, his eyes. I am almost certain that your answer will be his eyes. That is, when we look at someone, we find him in his eyes. We locate him in the eyes and nowhere else. We find his personhood and identity in his eyes, rather than, for example, in his ears, arms, or neck. By default, we regard looking at someone's eyes as the same as looking at him or her. But what is really the difference between the fat in the eyeballs and the fat in other parts of his body? Is there any essential difference between the eyes, ears, neck, and nose that leads you to seeing people only in their eyes? If you think there is a real difference that justifies your habit, explain it to me. Just bear in mind that you should start your analysis from the premise that the eyeballs consist of a bit of fat and muscle. If you start from this point, you will see that you really cannot justify this habit. The truth is that such a difference does not exist in the real world. In this context, there is no difference between the eyes and other organs in the physical body. There is no difference between the eyeballs and, for instance, the earlobes or nose. It is merely our mind that makes us picture the body in this way. It has gotten used to, or has been forced by social conditioning to get used to, making this distinction. The person you find standing before you is not in his arm or foot or the fat of his eyes. We differentiate between a person's eyes and other parts of his or her body based on a groundless habit. We put too much value on the eyes, as if the person resided in the eyes and nowhere else. We make a twofold mistake. First, we consider the body to be the same as the person, and second, we limit this person to the eyes. That is, we do not associate the whole body with the self. We do not see people in their ears, nose, neck, or knees, but in their eyes, and only in their eyes. When we talk to other people, we talk to their eyes as if they were only their eyes. We do not have the same feeling about their noses, ears, knees, or hands. We do not talk to those. We do not address those parts. We have gotten used to addressing only those two balls of fat and to deeming only those things as our audience. Examine an eye closely and look at its detail. If you can, cut it up and take a look inside. Again, you do not need a human eye. That of a sheep will do. Who can deny that the eye is anything but a white ball that contains some liquid and fat? Is it otherwise? If so, then what is it? Have you ever seen and touched an eyeball? Has it ever occurred to you to look at an eye only as an eye and not as a person? Can you look at someone's eyes without seeing a person in them? Is that gentleman or lady really in the eyeballs, in which you have been locating him or her with such certitude all these years? Not only do we feel that we are looking at somebody when we look at his or her eyes, but we also feel that a person is looking at ourself. when he or she looks at our body. But is that really so? Is this feeling compatible with the facts? A pair of eyes is looking at a body, but we think a person's self is looking at myself. What actually happens is that his or her self is looking at the image of my body in his own mind. But this is different from saying that his eyes, small balls of fat in a hollow space in his skull, are looking at my I. Furthermore, that ball of fat is not looking at me, but my body, or more precisely, the image of my body created in his mind. My I is somewhere other than he believes. I am neither in my body nor in the liquid of my eyeballs. We are not under the surveillance of others as much as we think we are.